I picked Lee Norman Friedlander as my famous photographer to research. When I was researching photographers, I saw his photos were described as, quote, humorous. This interested me because a lot of other photographers took photos in order to communicate current events. I wanted to see what was considered humorous and contemporary during the 1960s and 70s and what style was involved. Friedlander was born on July 14, 1934 in Aberdeen, Washington, United States of America. He is currently 84 years old. His father was Fritz Friedlander, a Polish Jewish immigrant who arrived in America shortly before World War I, and his mother was Karin Nurmi, a Finnish immigrant. Lee's mother died when he was only 7 years old of cancer, and his father was incapable of taking care of him, causing Lee, an only child, to be raised by a farming family in rural Washington. However, he still spent quality time with his father during weekends and holidays and learned the basics of photography with his father as well. Friedlander was always a photographer and started taking photos for money since he was 14. Lee briefly moved to Los Angeles to attend the Art Center College of Design, but dropped out before he finished his first semester. He then moved to New York City to start his career as a photographer and got his first job at Atlantic Records in the 1950s, and then worked for Sports Illustrated and eventually became a freelancer. He eventually met his future wife in New York, Maria De Paoli, and married in 1958. De Paoli became invested in Friedlander's photography and was not only his muse, but also helped him create his own publishing company, Haywire Press, which helped him establish Lee's career. The couple had 2 children, Eric, born in 1960, and Anna, born in 1962. The family lived in the Hudson Valley, but as Friedlander's career progressed in the 1970s, the family would go on road trips or photographic expeditions throughout the country for Lee to capture society through his photographs. Lee's style of photography was documentary photography. Lee's father helped nurture his son's passion in photography as a child, and Lee decided to continue to pursue with what he was good at. After working with Atlantic Records, Lee was also a regular freelancer with magazines such as Sports Illustrated. Despite dropping out of college, he formed a close relationship with one of his professors, Edward Kaminsky, who was a photographer and painter. Kaminsky became a mentor and let Lee stay with him, where he hosted numerous house parties and met photographers like Wynne Bullock and Imogen Cunningham, in wanting to be different with what current photographers were doing. The photographers he met through Kaminsky, and Kaminsky himself, convinced Lee that he should move to the East Coast and search for work there. Lee's style was unusual for street photography in that it possesses a constant awareness of the photographer's relationship to the picture plane and places at least as much importance on it as on the image's ostensible subject, usually something like an empty street, a store window, or an unremarkable piece of town statuary. Friedlander's photographs also often contain his shadow and reflection, which lends an odd, uncomfortable edge to his observations. Aesthetically, Friedlander's snapshot aesthetic showed little respect for compositional conventions. He challenged by such means as strong and overlapping shadows and reflection, and a general preference for mundane subject choices. Lee established a new generation of photographers, the, quote, post-Frank documentarians. His alternative take on point of view create a new depth to photography in capturing the average subject. This is one of Friedlander's many photos titled New York City that was taken in 1962. The photo is of a young upper-class couple making their way around the city. Friedlander uses texture to highlight the soft and fluffy fur scarf of the young woman, which contrasts the rough buildings and older signs around the couple. The wealth of the young couple are highlighted in this photo as they are in the forefront, while the poor buildings are far behind them in the background. Friedlander also used a variety of different elements in his photos to showcase the many unique aspects that make up New York City. New York is home to the extreme rich and the impoverished that live within blocks of each other. This is seen in the photo as the rich, affluent couple in the forefront of the photo, while many may not pay attention to the people in thinner coats and run-down signs behind them. Lee took this photo at a medium shot to make sure emphasis was put on the couple. The medium shot allows the couple to be shown enough for their wealth to be seen, with just minimal poor aspects of New York. Friedlander uses all of these elements to portray the meaning that everyone and everything inhabits the city of the hustle and bustle, New York City. This is one of Friedlander's photos titled Diane and Amy Arbus, New York City, taken in 1962. The photo is of two girls, one that looks like a young adult and the other a little girl, possibly 10 or under. Friedlander uses value to compare the emotions of each girl. There are lighter gray shades of the young girl compared to the young woman, which portray the girl as happy and playful, while the girl in the background is more solemn and serious, but still a soft smile showing she is content. Friedlander also uses contrast, clearly showing the different moods and emotions between those that are young and free, with those older and with more responsibility. The young girl seems to have been caught in the middle of laughing or doing something childish, as she holds on to the older girl, while the older girl is holding on to her protectively, keeping her in check. Friedlander takes this photo at a medium shot, as you see the two girls are holding on to each other, but you're not able to see what's happening in the background. This allows the viewer to see part of a close relationship between two people, but not their whole relationship, like what made the little girl laugh or what made the older girl softly smile. It is a moment and story between them, but the medium shot allows a peek into their lives. Friedlander uses all of these elements to portray the meaning that sisterhood and friendship go hand in hand. You need both in one person to be content. The historian Graham Clark suggested finally that, quote, Friedlander's images had changed the history of the photograph, and through their play on denotative and connotative points of reference, his photographs had offered the spectators a new, quote, critical vocabulary by which to read the modern photography's development. In an interview, Friedland notes how he doesn't really think that much when it comes to taking photos and that it is merely a, quote, physical reaction requiring him to capture the subject. When it came to his simplistic, straight-to-the-point photos, Friedlander believes that it's merely the facts that lead you straight to the point make the photo all the more interesting. Friedlander doesn't take a photo with a purpose or idea in mind, but just sees a subject that sparks a sort of interest in him and captures it. I personally like how straightforward his photos are because it leaves you with more questions rather than a staged photo. I wonder what those people were thinking in that particular moment that made them smile or frown. How something so normal that happened for less than a second in someone's life can be captured and kept forever is extraordinary.